Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 5 o'clock Eastern episode of Hobby Palooza on the Bench Clear Network. My name is Jeremy Lee. I'm the host of Sports Cards Live, also the name of my YouTube channel, Sports Cards Live. If you're not familiar with it, please check it out. I do live interactive interviews every Saturday night. I'm also the host of Collectible Live for Collectible, the fractional ownership company, and I also cover the PWCC Premier Auction Extended Bidding once a month when that auction ends. I do want to thank Bench Clear Media for having me on for the second year in a row. Hobby Palooza, what a wonderful event, bringing the YouTube community together. I'm super honored to be a part of it again here in 2022. Big thank you, shout out to Panini for contributing the giveaways. Please make sure you're leaving super chats during all these episodes to be entered to win a prize from Panini, and a portion of those proceeds are going to Signatures for Soldiers, a very worthy cause. I'm excited to be here again. I'm excited to host Steve Cass today on this episode of Hobby Palooza. Steve Cass is a lifelong collector, and he's the founder of the first true automated grading company, TAG, Technical Authentication and Grading Services. Mike, let's bring him out. Steve, welcome to Sports Cards Live on Hobby Palooza. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi, Jeremy. Doing well, thank you. You?
I'm doing good, thanks. I'm doing good. So just so everybody out there who's watching knows and is aware, as I mentioned earlier on Sports Cards Live, I do live interactive interviews every Saturday, and I came to meet Steve and the tag, some of the fellows from TAG, the tag team at the National last year, and kept in touch over the year. And back in about March, April, we started discussing that they were going to be launching their company, and I was honored and privileged to be able to do that on my show on Sports Cards Live. We're doing a 5-episode reveal series, a lot of content there, but we're really trying to introduce the company to the hobby. And we've gone through 4 episodes so far. The 5th one is scheduled for July the 9th, the 5th and final. We're calling that one The Future. And I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time prepping for these episodes and getting to know the team at TAG, and I'm thoroughly impressed. But Steve, let's jump in. I want the audience to get to know you. You know, you've been on my show now 4 times, and I've got the Sports Cards Live audience, but there's there's a lot of new people here today, and welcome to all of them. And I'm happy to introduce you to them. Why don't you explain to the audience, let them know a little bit about your collecting history and how it led you to want to start an automated grading company?
Okay, Jeremy. Yeah, we have talked about this on SCL. I've been collecting a long time, as you said, and the first cards that I bought were 51 Topps Redbacks. And, as a matter of fact, the Wally Westlake in that series remains one of my favorite cards for that reason. And I acquired cards for my lifetime, and I was principally interested in just the cards. I never really paid much attention to value. I didn't get cards graded. I never sold a card. And in about 2003, as I recall, about 2010, excuse me. I was telling my son that it was time he took over the management of the collection, and I had retired and worked a couple years at trying to get it organized, and he had seen that. He was at University of Chicago undergrad, about to graduate, go to U Chicago Law School, and he said that he didn't want the collection. It was too much of a burden. He saw how much time I invested in it, and told me to sell it, and said, buy yourself something, whatever you would do. And I have a particular interest in the City of Hope, and been involved with it a long time. And I decided I would look into selling the collection and do something with the City of Hope. So I began researching, how do you sell a card? I'd never sold one. I literally didn't know if you sell a premium, ultra premium card by itself, or you sell it in the set, or you sell it as part of an era of cards, or related sets, or you sell a whole series of that player. And I began reading a lot, and that led me to talking to people. And one day, I just, in 2012, February 2012, I asked myself, I don't understand why technology is not used to grade cards. Now, of course, 10 years, literally 10 years later, I understand why. It is a very difficult process. So we've spent 10 years doing it, and a little over, and we're rolling it out now. And you've been kind enough and introduced us to so many people, and through your show. And we've done some videos. They're on YouTube, and people are interested. They can see some of the content.
Great. Well, yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, you can definitely check it out if you'd like to go to my channel, Sports Cards Live. We've got 4 full-length episodes and a whole bunch of shorter clips as well. I just got to shout out Chad Shipper, a loyal viewer, audience member of Sports Cards Live, a friend of mine, for the very generous super chat. Chad, that's awesome. Thanks so much for supporting the cause and hobbypalooza. So, that's a lot of history in about 5 minutes, Steve. You go from not ever selling a card to looking to dispose of your collection. You research it. You learn that cards are often graded, and you decided to how and why did you decide to go from raw cards to automated grading? Like, what did you discover when you were looking at the grading options at the time?
When I first started researching and reading, it boggled my mind that there could be so many different opinions with respect to card grading. There were people who believed if you were submitting cards of a certain sport or a certain era, you were better to submit it to a certain grading company. There were people who believed another grading company did something else better. And the way to maximize your grade and the card value as a result was to carefully select the grading company that was most favorable to what you were doing. So because I had no experience, I did not accept that premise. I thought that it was just a tale. So I decided to do a little bit of work, and I sent 100 cards into one grading company, and I got them back, and I cracked them from the slabs. And I didn't know how to do that. I looked on YouTube and started studying that. And I've actually developed my own technique, which I think is pretty safe. It takes a little time. And I submitted them to a second company, and I saw that there was such a variance in the grades. I couldn't make rhyme or reason out of it because the companies use pretty much the same standard of grading. So that was really the time when I said, there's a need for this. We need, because I really am passionate about cards, I thought the hobby really needed to get a source of consistency and reproducibility in grading. There ought to be a grade for a card that people can rely on. So we took on some partners at the time, and from about 2013 or so, I worked with others. And in 2015 or 16, we filed for our first patent. We have 4 patents, 134 approved claims. We've recently filed another 75 claims, another patent. We're filing another one that I think will be another maybe 40 claims, another patent in the next 2 weeks. It's been a process, a difficult one, but very, very rewarding. It satisfies my passions.
Yeah, no doubt. I know you're passionate about it. I was fortunate. I came down and visited your facility in early March to see it with my own eyes. It's one thing to hear about something, to watch something on YouTube or elsewhere, to go to a company's website. It's another thing to go down there, get a complete tour of the facility and see everything going on. And when I saw it, that's when I realized that, whoa, this is really happening. This is coming. There's nothing that's going to stop this at this point in time, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. It's going to be tough to stop this at this point in time, because as you mentioned, what you didn't understand was the lack of consistency, reproducibility of grading cards by the manual graders. And listen, I think we owe a debt of gratitude to the manual grading companies who really created this, created the grading segment of the industry itself and led the way. And really, I think they do as great a job as they can overall, based on the fact that it's manual human grading, and humans are emotional. We're emotional animals. So I think there's a. Does that make sense to you? What I just said?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I have the utmost respect for the companies that grade cards, particularly PSA, Beckett, and SGC, to name three. And I believe that the industry has been built largely by the efforts of PSA originally. I think that custom set registry is a magnificent addition to the industry. I think Black Label is a remarkably directed attempt to differentiate between a 10 and a 10, for example. I think SGC has, particularly over the last year or two, made great strides at turnaround time and put pressure on other companies to do the same. But manual grading just cannot be consistent. It's I believe, having now worked on this for as long as I have, 10 years, it's impossible to have consistent grading based on human eyesight. And human eyesight's not that good to begin with. And even when it's 2020, even if it's slightly better, the degree at which you're looking at defects on a card require way better sight than that. And the evaluation of those defects and understanding how they impact on a grade based on a scratch, for example. One thing is to say there's a scratch. Another thing is to say there's a scratch that's of X length. Another thing is to say that length also has this width. Another thing is to say that length and width have this depth. It has this area. It's on a certain location in the card. So everybody, I think, accepts the fact that if a scratch is across the face of a player, it's more meaningful to the grade than if it was in the bottom right-hand corner on the border. So we developed technology that literally identifies the face of a card, the player, and even if they're wearing a goalkeeper's mask or a catcher's mask. The technology that we built was so refined that our initial problem was that it identified the face of every person in the crowd in the background, all these little circles around the face. So it took constant efforts to refine it. But those same parameters and considerations apply to every defect. And then it's compounded even worse because the number of defects, whether they're the same type or different types, and that impacts on the card, and the degree of variance between the largest scratch on the card and the smallest scratch on the card, and how many scratches and where they're located. And you get into corners, and it's remarkable how much information can be acquired, but how much time it takes to figure out what to do with that information. So our goal has always been, we are not interested in changing the grading system that exists in the industry. It's been there 30 years or so. It's very, very well accepted, as it should be. And all of our grades are designed to reflect the current industry standards for grading. So we give a three-digit or 100 to 1,000 point score, which it takes to differentiate between all of that attribute scoring. But we also give the industry equivalent grade 1 through 10. And it took a lot of time to figure out how to build that 100 to 1,000 point grading system to capture all the information, differentiate all of the cards, and stay within the current industry grading standards. It's not a small feat.
No, definitely not. How many different measurements does the tag grading system look at and examine? How many attributes are there, would you say?
We use 83 different attributes, and most people use a lot more attributes than you would think. Even a manual grader, when they look at the card, let's say they look at a corner, they may not be consciously able to tell you the difference between fill and fray and angle, and edge surface wear, corner surface wear. They may not be able to tell you those specifics, but when they look at the corner and put a grade on it, that's what they're doing. That's what's creating that quote general eye appeal, or the perception of the grader with respect to that corner. So what we do is we just drill down, and we actually, here we call it dig down. We dig down into that corner and find out what's there. And we provide that information. Transparency is critical to grading a card. Forget about our company tag, because I want to talk about the industry and why I think automated grading is required. And we don't need to talk about tag. To me, it's very important that a card be graded, and if the card is accurately graded, it should be impossible to get that card graded a second time. Why would anybody be willing to pay the same company to grade a card the second time, when in order to do it, they have to acknowledge that either the first grade is incorrect or the second grade is incorrect, because they're different? So we want to come out with a system where you get it graded once and it's the correct grade, but we want the submitter and the buyer to know it's the correct grade. And the best way to do that is transparency. So we have a dig report, a detailed image and grading report. And in that report, all these attributes we just spoke of, we give the individual 100 to 1,000 point score for each one of those attributes. But you also can drill down into those attributes, into the defect listing on the report. And you can see what it is, where it is, measurement, type of defect, and you can click on view and it will take you to an image of the card. And we offer two images. One is an X-ray type image called SFX. And the other one is a slide bar that you can slide up, and at the top, the slide bar will return that SFX image. We'll put next to it a color image in the highest resolution. So you can compare what is seen by a human being versus that X-ray and look at the defects. And you can do that on any of the attributes. You can see the exact defect and the measurements. We think that's important, transparency. And we're trying to appeal to the buy side of the market. We're trying to say, buyer, you should know more about what you're buying than to rely on a single grade put on a card by an individual who may or may not be tired, may or may not see the card correctly, may have the right lighting, improper lighting, maybe sees it differently one day to the next, and maybe another grader sees it differently than that grader. And even worse, you don't even know who put the grade on the card. Not only do you not know why you got the grade, you don't even know who did it. So we want to bring total transparency to this process, and I think it will be of import in the industry. It will add value to cards.
You mentioned before that you're not looking to change the grading standards. You're just looking to add some consistency, some reproducibility, and that sort of thing. You know, we're very used to this 10-point scale in the hobby. You know, PSA has grades 1 through 10 without a 9.5. Beckett has 1 through 10 with a 9.5. What's tag doing in terms of the, you know, you've got your 1,000-point grading scale. How do you associate that or relate that to the industry standard? And I mean, I know the answer to this, but can you speak to what appears on your flip itself?
Yeah. I don't know if you'll be able to see this.
Yeah, it's a little blurry, but if you pull it back a little bit, and of course it's, yeah, so you've got, I see the 10 on the top right is the industry standard grade. You can hold it up again, Steve. So I can explain, because I'm familiar with it. It's hard, it's a little blurry in the camera. Maybe pull it back just a bit towards yourself. But you've got the 10 in the top right. Leave it right there. The 10 at the top right, it says pristine under it. So that's the industry standard grade. And then to the left, now we're clear. To the left, you've got that QR code, and it says 979 in there. So that particular card has a tag grade of 979 and the industry standard grade of 10. And that's kind of what I just wanted to describe, is that you're using the industry standard grade so that it's relatable for everybody, but you're also using your 1,000 point grade, so your 1,000 point scale. So why do you guys don't have a 9.5? You're not offering a 9.5, and I noticed there were subgrades on the flip as well. The flip is transparent, as everybody saw. Can you speak a little bit to the importance of having a transparent flip and printing the card details and the grading results right onto the plastic casing?
Yeah, thank you. First, let me say that the final slab that we will go live with will not have the 4 sub-scores on the flip. We decided that it wasn't enough information to accurately reflect the card condition, and agree with the grading companies today that the many that don't put subgrades on the flip. But what we're doing is we're giving 8 subgrades. So we're giving the 4 subgrades for front and back. When you click on that QR code that you were just talking about, when you put in the cert number or you scan this with your phone, it'll take you to that detailed image and grading report, and it will show you everything. It'll give you all the sub-scores front and back, but it'll give you all of the individual attribute scores also. So you'll see 4 separate scores for the front left corner, 4 separate scores for the back left corner, same for the other corners, edges, centering. The slab, which you just asked about, one of the advantages, I think, in life is often to pursue something that you really don't understand when you start, because it compels you to learn about what you're doing and not be biased in how you approach it, to not have any preconceived notions, oh, this is how it's done. And all of us at TAG have learned a lot. We did not know how sonic welders work. I would say we are experts in sonic welding. We didn't know various technical aspects of printers, different types of printers. I would say we are experts in printing. And there's a lot of technology that's in the printing that's on this, for example. But the slab itself, we've learned a lot. And what we learned is that the materials for a slab, the clarity is determined on a scale. I don't remember the name of it, but it's a scale that grades up to 60. And crystal is a 60. And our slabs are 58. And we believe that's the highest clarity you can get in a slab without the slab becoming so brittle that when you put the sonic welder on it, it will cause fissures, if not cracks, in the glass. So we have a combination in our slabs of the finest material you can get. We pay more than twice as much for our slabs as the competition pays for theirs. There's no gray clouding. There's no cover up where the sonic weld occurs. It's clean and crisp, however you look at it. We want the card to be the highlight of the slab. It's a piece of art. I mean, that card is special. Not because it's this card, but that card to whoever has this card, it's special. It should be made to look special. So we tested all types of materials. We made custom horns for the welder. We made custom molds. We tested the best metals to make the molds out of. We made sure that under various pressures that were necessary to work with our slab, that there were no imperfections that were caused in the slab by the welding. So I think we've done a really good job. Not that people need to like our slab or agree or disagree with having to look at 8 sub-scores instead of 0 or 4, but I think the material speaks for itself, and the quality of the weld. I think people will like it. Not everybody, but the feed we've already, as you know, we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments from your show, and and the YouTube. We've got 10 hours of YouTube demonstrating a lot of detail. It's been remarkable, really remarkable. So that's the slab, and I hope people will go to the to YouTube and see the slab and see how it's put together. We demonstrate it. Everything that I talk about, we show with complete transparency in those YouTube.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I can vouch for a couple of things there. First of all, the slab itself is it is extremely clear. You know, I've got slabs from all the companies, and it's by far my favorite slab. Uh, that goes without saying. It is wonderful, and I like what I really like about it is that you can't counterfeit a tag slab because the flip is printed right on the slab itself. You can't just print out a piece of paper that looks like a flip from one of the other grading companies and put it in a new slab. And then from hosting you already, I know that there are additional security features built into the slab that I don't think anyone else in the industry is doing. So again, I just got to kudos to you guys for really going all out on the slab. So thanks, Mike. This the break says asking if he will one day provide a sideways slab for horizontal cards. Yeah, that's a good question. This the breaks, and it's one that came up on Sports Cards Live in one of the episodes. Steve, have you guys thought that far ahead yet in terms of having a horizontal slab for cards that are horizontally oriented?
Yes, we intend to do that.
Okay, great. I think what you'll find with Tag is that they're very open to feedback, and they're open to constructive criticism. You know, if it's delivered with respect and with maybe a solution. You email in. I think it's info@taggrading.com. You're likely to get a response from Steve or one of the fellas at Tag. So speaking about the team at Tag, why don't we do that for a moment? You know, again, it's one thing to say, hey, we're a new grading company coming on the scene, we're Tag, but let's understand a little bit, because you even said, like, you know, back in 2012, you were a card collector, but you weren't into the grading thing at that point. So what did you do to acquire the experience in card grading that the hobby, all the people watching, myself, would expect you to do, so that you can, you know, maybe accelerate what you know and just, you know, have that expertise on hand?
Well, you're causing me to flash back on a lot of memories. Um, I I recall reading an article in 2010, and it happened to mention somebody's name as they had advised somebody on the purchase of a card, and I tracked that person down and found out, you know, with some effort to get in touch, how to get in touch with them, and they were on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. After making contact, I flew back. I stayed and visited with him, he and his wife and family, for a few days. I did that twice. Uh, we began a friendship that led to his introducing me to people that he thought had a lot of knowledge about grading. I began interviewing those people and talking to those people and taking things that I had read and inquiring what they thought of that. And ultimately, one of these highly regarded graders mentioned to me in a conversation that they give cards to somebody else. Their client cards, they place with somebody else who they think is possibly even more knowledgeable about what that card will grade and why. So I looked that person up and I met that person and spent a lot of time with that person and hired him. And Scott Maxwell is the person. And Scott and I have worked on this for 9 years. And then Scott and I added, we have some co-founders in the company. The initial co-founders were not experienced in grading. We've expanded the co-founders starting about 7 or 8 years ago, and we have 3 guys that they happen to be brothers. And interestingly, I know them their whole lives. My son and they went to preschool together, and I'm friends with the family, and his father's an investor in the company. His dad is an entertainment executive. And the three boys are all graduates of USC, School of Design and Business School. And they came into the company about 7, 8 years ago. And everything that we've done, I mean, it's all on our YouTube, but our supply kits, which people tell us they look good, our slabs, the materials that we use, everything has to meet a certain
quality.
Well, it's quality in its material, but it also has to have a certain look. It has to be branded properly. We want it to tell a story in and of itself. So when you hold the slab up, it's high quality. You know, it's strong, it's clear, it's everything. But we wanted to tell a story that this is TAG. So we have guys that have incredible expertise in social media, marketing, all of the aspects that guys my age don't have any idea how to do it. And they're the ones that have learned. We had to do certain things. We needed extra power, for example. We looked at 143 properties. That's an exact number, 143 properties before we picked this one. We needed certain things. It had to be all concrete and steel. It had to be a very solid structure. We don't want any vibrations. It has to be in an appropriate area. We wanted to be off the ground floor, but we need to have FedEx be able to deliver. There were a lot of criteria. And when we picked this place, it's on the video. I'm not going to do anything to show anybody, but the whole design of it and how it works is largely the responsibility of those 4 people that I mentioned: Mark, Matt, Michael, Cook, and Scott. So I'm very proud of how things look, but I do tell them every day, and I would tell you, as I have before, it's one thing to have a story. It's another thing to have a good story. And both of those don't mean a hill of beans if you don't execute. And so we're ready to execute. It's been amazing over the last 8 months without even talking to people. Just you mention to somebody what you're doing. We've got 55, 60,000 cards that are here. 30,000 of them were prepaid. They didn't even know how much we were going to charge. They prepaid money and said, if it turns out that the price you quote to the market is higher, let us know. We'll send the rest. If it's less, send us back a check. We just want to be sure that you have our cards, we're paid, and we want to be in the front of the line when you start grading. 55, 60,000 cards. So this is 8 or 10 months ago. We weren't even contemplating a date where we would be doing it. They didn't care. So
yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, also you have to step back and remember, some people will send you their cards just based on a story. So right now, until you see those first cards get on the secondary market and sell for what I think will be very good secondary prices, until that happens, it's still a story. Yeah, we've got all the pieces of the story. You see, we've got the beautiful pictures and photographs and cards and autographed baseballs and basketballs and DiMaggio jerseys and photographs, and huge amount of equipment. If you walk this, we have a circular space. The whole idea is the cards come in directly in front of me, about 20 feet down. The cards come in, they go into a rack over here for FedEx to deliver. From receiving, it goes into quality assurance, it goes over to image capture, it goes to quality assurance, it goes to printing, quality assurance, it goes to slabbing, goes to shipping, quality assurance. We have 5 quality assurances along the way, every single aspect. We de-ionize every card before we take its image to make sure there's no dust on it. In our image capture device, we have fans, computer fans built into the back that blow outward so that all the dust or airborne artifacts between the lens and the card are removed. We developed, and it took a lot of testing to get the exact nest that we needed with the exact holes and we tested in a lot of different types of air pressure, suction, and the card is brought down to the nest so that every single card is exactly the same plane relative to the image capture lens. Otherwise, a crease on one card looks different than it does on the other, depending if the surface is curved. All of these details take time. And so the card flows all the way around, and as it comes out of shipping down here, it goes right back out the door to FedEx. We never have a card travel contraflow in the office. We have, our system is designed to be grading pods. So you have the image capture, the printer, the sonic welder, and shipping. That's a pod. It's about 250 square feet. Those are remote. We can put those anywhere we want, and we will. We intend to be, by the end of this year, have our first remote pods. So instead of asking submitters to send us their cards, to take the delay 2 days each way and the risk of damage and insurance, don't do it. Not necessary. We'll send you the technology. We'll put it in your zip code. We will put the pods in larger retailers. Keep in mind, a pod does everything except grade. All the grading is done by us. It does image capture, it does printing, it does the sonic welding, but no grading. And we have the means of making sure that the card that goes into that slab is the card that we graded to put in there. So it's a fascinating time, and we're at the early stages of the process. I know I'm just chatting because there's so much that we've done on YouTube. I don't know, you know.
Yeah. When Steve says there's so much we've done on YouTube, he's referring to the 4 episodes that we've already done on the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. And I see a lot of comments and questions coming in. Thanks, Mike. Hold that there. I see a lot of questions and comments coming in about things that we have definitely addressed on those 4 episodes. They're long, so I'm not going to ask everybody to go watch them all, although I certainly invite you to. Definitely watch them at 1.5 speed to save yourself some time. I'm going to quickly, Steve, if you don't mind, just address a bunch of these questions that I do know the answer to. If I get anything wrong, though, feel free to jump in and correct me. Baseball collector, that's Mike Moynihan. He says, what about autographed cards? Is the process different? My understanding is that upon launch, which is going to be happening at some point in July, I believe, TAG will not be taking autographed cards at the outset. Steve, I'm actually going to let you jump in and explain sort of why not and what the vision is for accepting autograph cards and thicker cards as well, as a question that has come in, because I'm aware that at the beginning, TAG's only going to be taking cards that are like, you know, your standard 35 point, your typical base card, and the next level up, which would fit into a 55 point top loader. So Steve, please address autographs and thick cards.
Well, thick cards, what you just said is correct. For us to move into the thicker cards, or even different size cards, it requires different focal length. Everything is extremely well integrated, but it's also very complex. So lighting, for example, on a 2.5 by 3.5 card, I won't give the exact number, but in round numbers, let's just say we have 1,000 LED lights. And those lights, over a period of time, we figured out what works for the randomness of when those lights flash. And we take 5 to 7 images of that card, and we build this 3D image of the card. And the lights have to be certain lights at certain angles. So there's a lot of complexity in that. Well, when you change the size of a card and you change the focal point of the camera, we have to go back and do that. Now we know how to do it, but you still have to do it and do the testing. We don't want to delay the opening, so we're going to be purists. We're going to be doing 2.5 by 3.5 cards, half-inch cards. We're not going to be doing autographs. Let me say one other thing about autographs, and it's a broader subject than autographs, but autographs are part of it. Counterfeiting.
Which is a question that came up in the chat, is will the system detect counterfeiting?
Yeah. I have personally a real angst against counterfeiters. And I grew up in an era as a kid where I could buy cards and I never had to worry if the card was a genuine card. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a youngster today and want to be in the hobby. And if you don't already know, you find out sometime after you buy a card, maybe for your lifetime savings at the point you purchase it, that the card is a counterfeit card. That's devastating. To me, it's a capital offense. I don't know how anybody can do that, especially to a child. With adults, you say buyer beware if you're inclined. So we're committed to dealing with counterfeits. Right on the other side of this room that I'm sitting in now, we have an area where we spend a lot of time deconstructing cards. So we literally can and do take various cards apart. We have figured out the right solutions, the right chemicals, the right timing. There's a lot more involved in that, but so we're able to take, whether it's the Mylar or I'm not going to go into the details. Many people maybe know, but a lot of people don't know how a card is made. And so we've separated all of those components, and we intend to apply technology to those components. And we also intend to do everything in our power to put the responsibility for counterfeits where it rightfully belongs. That's the manufacturer. It is so easy for a manufacturer to embed in one of those multi-layers of a card a security measure that can be unobtrusive to the viewer of the card, but can be seen with special uplighting or other types of technology. And it can be done so inexpensively. So I believe manufacturers don't care about it. Up until now, they haven't paid attention to it. I think the industry, if we collectively are desirous of doing what's best for the industry, all we have to do is use the power of our pocketbook and tell manufacturers, if you can't guarantee us that the card's original and will remain detectable as original, yours is not the card we should be buying. And I believe you'll see the industry respond. It's an easy fix.
Yeah.
So we're developing that technology, and we are committed to. It's one thing to be able to identify existing tells on a counterfeit card, but nobody, I don't care who it is, nobody can say they can detect a counterfeit card that does not yet exist, because you don't know what technology will be used to make that counterfeit. So
Right.
ultimately, it's the manufacturer's responsibility, in my opinion.
Okay, we only have about 6 or 7 minutes left, so I want to run through. There's Mike's put a question up on the chat. I've seen a lot of people ask this in the chat. Steve, is how much is the grading going to cost?
So to be totally candid, I don't know the answer. We're working on that now. But I am confident that it will be as low or lower than any grading cost in the industry.
Okay, which makes sense, as there's, I guess, less labor involved. I Collect Ichiro wants to know, will the card be sleeved within the slab itself?
No.
Okay, thank you. There was a question that came in before. I don't see it right now up there, Mike, but someone asked if the system will be able to tell if a card has been resubmitted.
Yes. So we digitally fingerprint every card. The digital fingerprint is virtually perfect. We see what's called NHODs. Those are not human observable defects, NHOD. So our digital fingerprint enables us to match a card precisely. And we will not, if somebody resubmits a card, the system will identify it, it will kick the card out. We'll look at the grade of that card, and if that card has a lower grade because they cracked it out, how they handled it, how it was shipped, if it has a lower grade, we will honor them by slabbing it with the lower grade. If the card does not have a lower grade, they'll get the card back as ungradable. We want the industry to know TAG is a one-stop shop. We're never going to ask you to pay us a second time for what we failed to do properly the first time.
Appreciate that information. Timing. I've seen a few questions come in on the chat. People wondering when are they going to be able to send cards in? And just while we have people there, I'll let you know the website is taggrading.com. So definitely, I would say you must have a newsletter or an email capture so that you can send people updates. So make sure you guys check out taggrading.com. Put your email in there in that, Steve. I'm assuming you have one. Thank you, Mike, for putting that link in the chat right now. Yeah, check that out. And but timing, Steve. Any outlook onto when you'll be able to start accepting third-party grading and start running them through the system, through the process?
Yes, it's not definitive, however, but some idea. Within the next few weeks, we would be in a position to offer what we would call early birds, people who we would have a limited number when we start, and we would let people buy those early bird submissions, first come, first serve. And we decided that we're likely to not take that approach. The reason for that is, I would say we have received a few hundred people who have already said that they want to submit. Some people said they've never graded cards except for grading with ABC Company. They want to try us. Some people have said that they have been with one company for over 30 years. Now they want to change.
Let me ask you this. Sorry, Steve. I have to jump in and ask, how many, I've been getting a lot of feedback because we've been doing these episodes, and for anyone who's joined us late, my channel, Sports Cards Live, you can see a ton of content on this company just because I think we're at a fork in the road, or it's a revolutionary thing. It's about to, this is coming one way or another. And Tag's definitely the leader. But you can go check out those episodes. And sorry, Steve, I'll let you get back to what you're saying.
So we're now thinking that we're going to have some kind of a not first come, first serve buy, but some way of separating a few select people to be the early submitters. It's a reward. It's some kind of a contest. I don't know what it will be yet. It might just be telling us why you want to get some cards graded by Tag. We don't want it to be just somebody clicks on the link first and is able to win that right. So yes, it'll be in a few weeks where we'll announce that.
Great. I just want to, Mike did ask if he could come in and ask a question. So Mike, what's on your mind?
All right. I'm a grading guy, Steve. Okay. And just to be very transparent, a skeptic of all things new. And it's not because it's not a trust thing. It's I kind of like the way things are, right? And there are huge issues in the grading space, period. Like, name your company, you can find problems with them, right? Everybody complains. They're champions for different companies. I've been a PSA guy mainly because I'm addicted to the registries, right? Just to be frank, I love the registries. I love the pseudo competition with that, even though you don't get anything for it. It's just for giggles. I have, 4,000 slabs. Can I just send them all to you to cross them over for me? And
no, I don't think we'll accept crossovers. I'm not out trying to make somebody else's card better or worse. Whoever grades a card, to me, you judge that card for being graded by whoever graded it, including us. Treat us no differently.
So that is my question, though. So you said you're not going to accept crossovers.
No.
Okay.
That's not in our plans right now. Okay. I don't want to create the incentive for somebody to send us a card from another grading company and say, let me know if you would give this card a higher grade, because it then creates the perception that we're willing to give somebody a higher grade than the card that's there. And it has nothing to do with us. There's no manual input in the grade. It's what the system says the grade is. And so I don't care what the grade is that's on it from another company. We don't compete with that. I believe our grades are consistent with the industry, and in many cases where we've checked, our grades are a little higher.
I find it fascinating. I've listened to a lot of the stuff that you've done on Jeremy's channel on Sports Card Live, but it's different to be able to ask you direct. You know, it's one thing to hear it; it's another to literally hear it. You know,
Where are you located, Mike?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, well, we have a couple of investors from Texas, but come on out and I'd be happy to let you in and show you around. So it's one thing to tell somebody something, it's another thing to show somebody something. We're all about showing it.
No, the fact that you're willing to be so transparent is something that this industry, that the grading industry, the grading aspect of our hobby has needed for a long time. So many companies are so unwilling, and it's just an unwillingness. They can do it. They're just worried about what everybody else will think. And so I applaud that part of your business model. I think that's revolutionary, as Jeremy used the word earlier. That's good to hear.
Be a skeptic for everything that's new, particularly when that new item, somebody tells you what it is and won't show you.
Yeah.
And I have that same rule. If you're just going to keep telling me why I should invest with you, why I should buy your product, why I should buy your service, and not tell me and show me why it's better, I start to think it's a story. It's not reality.
Well, I'll let you guys finish up. Jeremy, I'm sorry to hijack the last couple of minutes, but as a grading guy, I like to hear direct answers, and I appreciate your candidness, Steve, and your willingness to answer.
Come out and see us. Wear your PSA hat when you come in, and I will bet anything when you leave, you're wearing a tag hat.
I like it. All right, I'll leave and let y'all finish up. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll wrap up. Thanks, Mike. Glad you jumped in. Steve, we're gonna wrap up. You know, if before I kind of do my thank yous, do you have anything you'd like to just leave? Any message you'd like to leave the audience with before we wrap it?
Thank you for your time and visiting with us and giving us an opportunity to tell you what we do. But I beg you, discount everything I've told you and go and look. If you can't see what I've told you is the truth, then you should never do business with TAG.
All right.
Do not do business with us based on a story. Those days are past.
Right on. Okay, well, I can let everybody know that Steve and members of his team will be at the National, not set up. They don't have space there this year. I think you're planning to next year, but they will be there and ask them questions. So again, thanks everyone. Be sure to stick around Bench Clear here for the next episode of Hobby Palooza with Retro Hoop Collectibles. Their topic is why 90s basketball cards are hot. I love that topic, guys. Have a great show ahead. Tonight on Sports Cards Live, my channel, I have a guest, Nate Ballant. He's in Cardboard Veritas on Instagram. And tomorrow on Collectible Live, my guest is Jordan Gilroy from Leland's. And the final episode of the tag reveal on Sports Cards Live is July the 9th. Thanks again, Mike and Ty from Bench Clear for organizing Hobby Palooza. Wonderful event again. And thank you to Steve from Tag Grading, taggrading.com.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank